Global debt has been rising. Is that a surprise to anyone? There are no countries which can reduce their debt simply because in order for a country to create something, it must be born out of debt. Debt is the birthplace of all creation in this banker-controlled world, and that's why it is the system which they use to control everything in our lives, either directly or indirectly. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at global debt reaching a record high yet again. Let's begin. This information comes from the IIF, and you can see the Global Debt Monitor, January 2018. Global debt soared to over $230 trillion in Q3 2017. So let's cover some information from this report. Beginning with this. Global debt rose to a record $233 trillion in the third quarter of 2017. That's more than $16 trillion higher from the end of 2016. It has escalated to new heights yet again, and they try to spin it as a positive thing. I'll show you that in a moment. Private non-financial sector debt, guess what? Hit an all-time high in these countries: Canada, France, Hong Kong, South Korea, Switzerland, and Turkey. You'll see that these countries are generally very, very happy about what's happening there because the ratio of the debt to GDP fell for a fourth consecutive quarter. So it must be at a low level, right? It must be at something that's manageable. It must be something sustainable. Things are doing well. They're being very fiscally responsible. And what do you think? The ratio is around only 318%. No, there's no decimal places in here. There are no commas. There are no punctuation of any kind. There's no space in there. That is the number 318%. 318%. And we are supposed to believe for a minute that that is manageable, sustainable, and practical. Guess what? It's not. It's not even close. Even if it gets anywhere near 100%, it is already finished. The game is over, and that's all you need to know. But this is the new economy. This is the new world. And the new world is all about ridiculousness. It's all about bubbles. It's all about extremes. That's what the culture is doing. That's what the society is doing. And you're seeing that reflected in the financial system. A combination of factors including synchronized above potential global growth, rising inflation, and efforts to prevent a destabilizing buildup of debt, China and Canada, have all contributed to the decline. I also wanted to note here, I thought this was amazing. The global population apparently is estimated to be 7.6 billion. What we are seeing here is global growth expanding so rapidly. I remember it seemed to me like it was just yesterday that we hit 7 billion. And now it's 7.6 already. I mean, it's really exploding in some countries around the world. And other countries, it's declining rapidly. So that's interesting. But think about the debt for a moment. A lot of people don't understand that, and they simply say, we owe it to ourselves, therefore it is not to worry. But do we really owe it to ourselves? Where does currency originate? The government doesn't create currency. The central bank creates currency, and they loan that currency into existence. It comes out of thin air. It is created, either printed in physical form or zeros and ones on a computer, and they basically take it and they loan it to the government, and they do so at a rate of interest. That interest has to be paid back at some point. And that is the system which allows them to be, basically have infinite amounts of money. They have the printing press, and they can make as much money as they want off it. How much money has been printed since 2009? I don't know. I really don't know. They did a limited audit of the Fed and found they printed actually $16 trillion. And they printed more after that. How much more? Well, There was a bit of disclosure, looking at some trillions, QE3, and it isn't really suggested that we can rely on this system, right? You need to think about it. Where's your money today? Are you relying on a pension fund? Are you relying on a retirement account? When there's, what they admit, 318% in this ratio of debt to GDP. And guess what? The GDP is so fraudulent that it should be significantly lower than where we are seeing it. And the debt doesn't include all these unfunded liabilities, doesn't include off-balance sheet numbers. These ratios are so off. If you use the correct numbers, it wouldn't surprise me to see it, and I'll be very conservative here, 2 to 3 times higher. But again, look at the comments. Look at the comments of this video. Doesn't matter what you say as long as the country can manage it, okay? I know what the bankers say and what you've repeated. I get that. I mean, I hear it a lot. I read it often. I talk to people in the industry all the time who have that message, and I get it. I really do. I really do. I understand what you've been repeating, and that's okay. All right. Total global debt, all sectors. Look at this here where you can see for yourself. Emerging market excluding China is the green. China is the orange color here. Then we have the US. And just for a moment, look at where it has gone. We have seen since the financial crisis, right? We have seen all expanding. Every single one. When you think about this, where will this go? Oh, I have a hint for you. It will rise. And this is what they show us. Let me just move on. Global sectoral indebtedness in the trillions of dollars, percentage of GDP, end of each Q3, all right? Take your pick. Non-financial, corporates, government, financial sector, household. Doesn't matter. We are seeing continuous increases as the years go on. The financial sector has expanded to new heights, even though we were told they were scaling back. We told everything was not going to be too big to fail. We were told that everything is just fine and all that silliness and all this ridiculousness. And I'm just sick of being lied to. I'm sick of being lied to by the government. I'm sick of being lied to by JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. And I'm sick of being lied to the people who repeat the same garbage in the financial sector that I have to hear all the time. I hear the jokes. It's amazing. They have these companies out there, whether it's some sort of media type companies, and they are working directly with the financial sector, and they basically pay them to spit out something in the news. Oh yes, they are accepting this new fund manager, and he has a great performance. We have great prospects for the future. It's great. And that's called marketing. Now people read it as this objectionable, opinionated piece that happens to be just positive for some reason. Every single day there's new positive information. They're paying for that. That information costs money. That's what they do. That's the way this financial system really works. And the same thing, you have media outlets out there. You realize that they're simply working for the government, that it's not objectionable. You hear left and right. You hear about all of this business between both sides. There are no sides except them and us. Quickly. Will bond yields rise as expected in 2018? Percentage yield of a 10-year U.S. Treasury. Look, just think about this for a second here. Year-end yield forecasted in January. Year-end yields realized. And no matter what, seems to be always much lower. Right? We'll see. We'll see what happens with 2018. I don't know where yields will be, But ultimately, what I've always found here in the past few years is that they promise something and they don't keep that, number one. And the fact that it's never as good as its expectations. Right, quickly changing gears, two things to cover here. 10% of Amazon's Ohio workforce is on food stamps. Now, I don't know if it's 100% accurate or whatever, but even if it's anywhere close to this, why? You're talking about companies that employ so many people, right? This is where everybody wants to work. This is where the jobs are going. It's just like Walmart from, let's say, maybe 20 years ago or what have you. But you'll see that these big companies, maybe they're not paying enough, but that's up to the company. I think ultimately expenses are too high. That's what it comes down to. Amazon could be able to pay whatever they want. They're trying to increase minimum wages in different places, and they are trying to make it easier on people. But ultimately, as I will try to show you soon, do a video on that, the increase in minimum wages actually just makes more people unemployed. Okay, here, and people don't like to hear that, by the way. In Venezuela, the president ordered more than 200 supermarkets to cut prices back to last month's level, a tall order in a country where many prices change daily due to the world's fastest inflation rate. You have a situation where the people are hurting, definitely, but imagine someone came into your store and you sold whatever that might be. You sold bread, okay? You were a baker and you sold these loaves of bread and they were all going for $1. And the government came in and basically said, no, you can't charge $1 for this bread. You have to charge 50 cents for this bread. And I understand it's not exactly works like that. I mean, this government operates differently and things are very controlled there. I know, just take it for, they control everything. And you as a business owner, you have nothing. You have no rule. You have no, creation of your own rules. What the say? I mean, come on. This is done. It's over. It's finished. When are they going to come out and just declare, okay, we give up? Eventually, there's going to have to be a coup. That's the only way that's going to work. And so, here we are today. Put your back into it. Fed. And there's Janet Yellen. That is a real-life photo of her, of course. Trying to raise those interest rates, right? Well, you got a big debt load. And it's going to be a very, very difficult task to try and raise interest rates now when you have this much debt. Guess what would happen? Oh, right, that's right. Of course, everything's going to come tumbling down. But the Federal Reserve has been increasing slowly. We've seen other central banks around the world saying that we're going to do the same. Canada did it a little bit and other countries did it a little bit. But ultimately, there's so much debt, they can't do it. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, a lot of people are starting to consider the fact that, maybe they won't increase rates this year, or maybe they'll just do it just a tiny bit just to say, yes, we did do it. But they say that the economy is totally fine. How do you say that everything is fine when you can't bring up interest rates? This is historically very low. You've heard me rant on this before. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it supports this channel. Hopefully, by tomorrow or the day after, this channel will be at 80,000 subscribers. We'll make a video about that when it happens, all right? That's all for this video. If you found it informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can flip through these books at Amazon. Links are in the description below. Take care.